So tell us more about Suicide Saint and how is it correlating with mental health? Because I know mental health is a big thing about this film in the Black and Brown communities, but I just want you to tell the listeners more about how this is directly related to mental health.
Uh, Absolutely. The two of the main characters, they're both lead characters, Vincent Cross and Thomas Meadow, respectively deal with hypervigilance, schizophrenia. The other character deals with PTSD and identity crisis. The experience of the film, because as much as it is about this dynamic storyline and intricacies of the characters and the story arc, it's even more an experiential film of feeling this visually immersive um, world of understanding what the characters are going through, right? And the way we shoot it and stylizations and some of the effects. It's a sci-fi drama, so it I can't give away too much of the creative because even in our marketing
Right.
we're being very vague. Um, so I don't want to go too much into it, but it definitively addresses issues that people are going to be able to relate to, and we all relate to. And
Definitely.
more about me doing interviews is not so much talking about the film as it is much about the issues, because I'm not here today to sell the film, as crazy as that sounds. I'm using the film to push the issue. And most people are just, they just want to sell their goods, right? And it makes sense because if the film doesn't do well, then people don't get the message. But I think
Right.
we're not chasing after anything. We want to create intrigue and let people be pulled in. Um,
No, but
but
I definitely think that mental health is something that needs to be addressed, especially in the Black and Brown communities. A lot of times we like to act like there isn't a problem. We like to try to minimize mental illnesses and mental health issues. So, having platforms like yourself, putting that out there and educating the masses about mental health is a huge thing, and we should uplift it more.
thank you for recognizing and appreciating that, and thank you for letting me come on a shot of facts to
Yeah.
get the,
Yeah, I
cheers
definitely,
to
one
a
of
shot
my
of facts.
main, thank you. Yeah, one of my main points of topics to discuss is mental health, especially my demographic is the youth, it's college students, college graduates, and whether people like to believe it or not, a lot of youth have mental health problems. They don't know how to address it. They don't know how to go about it. They don't know how to get help. So the more that we normalize that it is okay to address these issues by media, by film, by influencers, by artists, then we can further increase productivity in our society, honestly.
Absolutely, and that's a great point, right? It's about increasing productivity in our society, right? Us being able to live healthier and happier lives and being more engaged, because mental health impacts every thought that we have in every second
Right.
of the day, in every relationship we have with loved ones, with strangers, with coworkers. And it's unfortunate that in schools and our education system, uh, they teach math and science and these other things, and then you go to college and they teach you, give you information to follow a career and make money, but they never teach you anything early on in terms of just
Exactly.
how to manage, and something as simple as how to like manage and regulate your mood, right? And then you have kids who have all this adversity at home, and they're coming into the school environment, and the school that's supposed to be there helping to educate the kids can't even educate them because the kids are hung up about something personal where they have some anxiety or depression or whatever that doesn't even allow them to exercise their ability to learn, right? So now they're failing
Exactly.
in school, and it becomes a downward spiral. And I think if they just spent more time on, you know giving giving people the tools that they need to build their mind and their mental stability, this would lead to everything else that you do in life, and give you much more success, and also allow us to understand each other more. Right? I've never seen this world so divided. I've never seen this country so polarized. I've never seen so
Tell me
much
about it.
hate. Like there's just an enormous amount of hate. And while all of these protests are amazing, and it's great to have some accountability and action for things that are just far overdue that shouldn't still be happening, we also have to be conscious about how we're going about that we're not replacing one hate for another, right? Because now there's this big push that everything is anti-white. And
Mm-hmm.
I think the argument needs to be that we want to get to a point of equality. We don't want to replace one supremacy with another supremacy, right?
Right.
So I think it's beautiful that everybody is feeling empowered, and then there's compassion for our communities, for Black and Latino communities. But I think as our voices become bigger and we're pushing our narrative and the cultural shift is changing, not enough in Hollywood, unfortunately. It's great to see that we're dominating sports in other areas. Not that we should be dominating, right? I'm going back to my argument of it needing to be equal, not us,
Exactly right.
taking over. But unfortunately, in film, of commercially released directors in the last few years, 94% were Caucasian, and like 4% were Black, and then like 1% was Latino.
Mm-hmm.
Even so, Latinos won Best Director at the Oscars 3 out of the last 4 years. So
Yeah.
having
So
the
how do you
smallest,
even maneuver through being a minority in filmmaking? Because it's always some type of barrier between any type of, I guess, career wise or anything. I don't want to go back into the entertainment business, but there's always some type of barrier of becoming successful when you're Black or brown. So how did you maneuver through that barrier yourself?
well, I don't think, I think my it I didn't face those barriers in the same way. And the reason I'll say this is because I didn't go traditionally through the system.
Mm-hmm.
So there was no system to affect me. I built everything entirely independent of the system. Like most people go to college, then they go from college, and then if they make their thesis film, then they might be in film festivals. A studio might pick them up, or they might get
Right.
that look. So if I was at NYU or USC or somewheres, and I was amongst a group of people, and I saw other white students getting you know cherry picked by Paramount or different studios or agents or whoever, maybe I would have been more impacted by that because I would have felt some type of way. But I didn't go to college. I never interned for a corporation. I never, a lot of the peers that I now have in the industry came up through the ranks of working at MTVs or the major brands, ad agencies. That wasn't my story. It was entirely outside of that system, and I built my brand. Not till later in my career, the first job I ever took was working with Puffy, and I turned that down the first two times they asked me. I wasn't, because I had built the first film studio in the Bronx, and I was
Right.
very successful as an independent entrepreneur. And then one day I was like, maybe let me try a little bit of this advertising thing, and it was cool, and I learned something from a different side of it. But I knew even more then that I wasn't built for that uh, corporate mentality, because everybody's throwing each other under the bus, and there's this trying to dog eat dog motto to get to the top. And I come from a world of, my objective is always to serve the brand, right? I'm not thinking about my position and my status. I'm thinking about the product has to be hot. We could all share the credit, but like if the product ain't hot, then um, everybody loses. So not that there was an unhealthy organization there. I'm not specifically speaking about Combs Enterprises, because there was a lot of amazing
In which you
executives and staff.
shameless plug, you worked with the Ciroc campaign. You also worked with Russell Simmons as well with the what was it, Rush Card, and you worked
Yeah,
with a
yeah,
lot of
I did.
campaigns as
I,
well.
I was the executive producer at for Puff's company. I did all the campaigns for Ciroc and Sean John
Mhm.
and Deleon. So I was across across the empire, the
Right.
$800 million empire. I was doing all the advertising. Um, but there were some really terrific people within the organization. A good person I'm really good friends with to this day, Nick Storm. He was director of national promotions for Ciroc, and was really, you know, big part of that machine behind the brand. Previously, having done Hypnotic from the ground up, and he was in Asia Mob, and we worked on some other stuff together. Um, but yeah, Rush Card was cool. I was part of rebranding Rush Card, and then they sold the Green Dot for 150 million. But
Right.
I didn't feel fulfilled in advertising. You know, it's amazing to be in charge of $3 million commercials and cutting checks and feeding other people and putting people on and you know doing something that um, has some validity in terms of like career, but it didn't mean much to me. Like it wasn't the same um,
As being as
impact.
your own boss,
Well,
creating.
not even being my own boss, but creating something that has an impact,
Right.
right? Like I just feel like I can do anything to make money. If I just do something to make money that only serves me and my family, we all got to eat. But if it doesn't do anything for anybody else, even though in the ecosystem of the industry, if I'm still helping a few people, but if I'm creating a film that can, you know, change humanities, right? Like we're so divided, right? Like how do we get to a point of being more united? Like if this film, you know, sparks an interest or creates a wave and other filmmakers start to create content like that, think about all the negative influence of films. You know, there was films historically that painted us in a certain light to
Exactly.
perpetuate a stereotype that led to years more of oppression and other circumstances. You know, whether it was just conditioning more white people to think this way about black people, or you know, whatever the differences are in different racial groups or ethnicities, because oppression exists in all societies. It's not just a black and white thing. You go to
Right.
Africa, you have government leaders, corruption, an oppressed class. You know, India, wherever it doesn't matter. We're it's part of our human nature that power corrupts.
Yeah, I definitely can agree that we do need more positive reinforcement through film, because that is a fact that perception, visual perception is huge with your mindset and your psyche and what you think of other people and other cultures. So having films discussing these hard topics that we all need to discuss, these are important. And I discuss this with my friends a lot, how much the media warps your mindset about people that you have never even met before, or even concept or mindsets about different things. So I definitely do agree that we need more films. We need more think pieces out there to help people think about more than just the minuscule social media things or the stereotypes. So yeah, I definitely can agree with that.